always need to start with. Always remind the teacher to record. First lesson to all students. Help us remember to record for people who aren't going to be here. How's everybody doing? Y'all recovered from Sunday? Yeah, good. Caleb, I saw you and Yin last night. That was cool. And we've got two new people who, well, they're not new. They just weren't here on Sunday. But Tori and Jenny, and I'll let them introduce themselves when we get around to it. So this is Chakra Night number 1 out of 7. So Kristen and I will be with you for the next 7 weeks on Tuesdays. These nights are an in-depth look at the, well, I don't know if in-depth is the right word because the chakras are, we're going to get more into it. They're deep, first of all. They're really deep, and we can only get so deep. So we'll do one chakra a night, but you'll soon learn 2 hours on one chakra is not really enough to even be considered comprehensive. That being said, we have to kind of take a point of view and a direction to go with the chakras because there is so much to know about them and we have such limited time. So the approach that we take is kind of looking at the chakras from a self-reflective and psychological aspect. So in one regard, you could define yoga as a science of the mind, okay? And that is essentially, it is essentially the first psychology. That's all psychology is, right? So in the West, we call science of the mind psychology. In the East, and by the way, modern psychology in the West has been around really as a discipline, scholastically, maybe 150 years, 200 years at the most, right? So it's really new. It's a really new science. And yet in the East, the science of the mind has been studied for thousands of years, and yoga is one of the most profound techniques to do that. And it's also been, we're lucky to have a lot of ancient yoga texts, and the chakras are just one way to look at that aspect of ourselves. And so that's how we're going to use them, because in a larger picture, for the context of your intents and purposes with this, you know, to be a yoga teacher, you need to be continually developing yourself. Because what it really means when you step in front of a class to ask people to embark in a yoga practice is that, you know, essentially, yeah, there's going to be some stretching, there's going to be some strengthening, there's going to be some balancing on the physical planes. But what you're really doing is working to develop your students on all aspects. You know, the 5, so they're called the koshas, don't worry about remembering that, but the 5 aspects of self, you know, you've got the body, the mind, the heart, it goes on and on, there's 5 of them. But if you're not willing to do that work as a teacher yourself, you can't embody that for your students. So really, that's a fundamental principle of kind of what we believe at the Cambio School of Yoga is that you can't talk the talk unless you're willing to walk the walk. Now, all that to say, you don't have to believe in anything to appreciate the chakras. So I want to start this off with just letting you know that this is going to be fairly esoteric and metaphysical. And we're going to take more of a Western approach to the chakras because it is what most people are used to, and it opens up the conversation in a greater context. And we're just not going to have the time to dive into the nuance and the complexity of it from the more Eastern traditional aspect. You know, because in the West, we're used to the 7 chakra system, the rainbow colors. In the East, there's 9 chakra systems, 10 chakra systems, 12 chakra systems. It goes on and on and on and on. So which do you pick? Well, you probably pick the one that's just most proximate and more culturally accessible right now for us to talk about. So it's an entryway into understanding a little bit more about that, as well as understanding more about ourselves. But remember that, you know, there's a sliding scale of like people who are like, oh, I totally believe that there are these chakra things and they're out there and I can feel the energy and I see the colors. There's going to be people in the middle, and there's going to be people who are like, I don't know about this chakra stuff. Like, I need science, I need evidence, I need facts. And that's not going to be a part of this discussion per se, because that's just not there yet. Science hasn't caught up with some of the things that the chakras claim. it doesn't mean we're saying believe in this. What we're saying is understand it. Understand what is said about the chakras. You don't have to accept it as fact. And in fact, if you remember what I told you on Sunday, we don't want you to take anything we say just face value. We are always trying to facilitate your own engagement and an own experience, an authentic interpersonal relationship with the material, meaning find out for yourself. You know, you may be proposed with something that rubs up against some of your belief system or confirms some of your bias. But whether it's confirming or confronting, I still want you to use these 7 weeks to explore. So right now we're going to just wipe the brain clean of everything our pre-existing belief systems around the chakras versus whether like we were already like, okay, it sounds like a bunch of hooey, or I already know a lot about the chakras. I want you to put everything you know to the side for the purposes of our discussions for the 7 weeks. And then you can pick it back up once we kind of just go through the information. So if that's okay, are you willing to do that, to take on a beginner mindset, to begin on an exploratory conversation with one another for the next 7 weeks to hopefully, you know, really, and there's not gonna be a test. There's not gonna be like, okay, you know, how many petals does this lotus have for the 3rd chakra? No, really what Kristen and I care about is that you just learn something about yourself through this. And hopefully it's more than I like the chakras or I don't like the chakras. I think that there's some real power for these sessions. I know that there's some real power for these sessions to be kind of profoundly illuminating for some aspects of yourself that maybe have been kind of in the dark for a while, or maybe you're not even aware of that are there. So we're going to get into that a little bit more. I'm just trying to give you the big picture of things. So 7 weeks, 7 chakras. Tonight we have a lot to cover, and how that's going to work is the intro that I just gave. Then we'll do check-in. Then Kristen will go over kind of the overarching general modern Western theory of chakras, and then we'll dive into our first chakra, which will be the root chakra, Muladhara chakra, okay? So just a quick show of hands though, who has heard of the word chakra before? Who's heard of chakras? Okay, now keep your hand up if you feel like you know a little bit about the chakras. Okay, keep your hand up if you're like, I know a lot about the chakras. All right, and I'm gonna put my hand down because even though Kristen and I have been teaching this, and I have to tip my hat because this might be the last time we teach it as a duo. And we've been doing it together though for 10 years. And even after all those years, we always learn so much more, and it is just a profound realization that we don't know. We're not experts here. We are facilitators of some information, and we're just going to kind of guide the conversation and hopefully give you a fun and profound experience along the way. Who doesn't know anything about the chakras? Who's coming into this completely like right on? Cool. That's great. So beginner mindset should be easy for you. And the only clarifying thing I want to say before we begin the check-in is it is chakra. So say chakra. It is not chakra. So it's not like Shaka Khan. It is like chocolate, chakra, yeah. So we want to do our best to, even though, you know, we're coming at it through a Western lens, we still want to honor the tradition, that the way that things are said are not stripped of their tradition. So it's chakra, not chakra. Okay, so what do we do for check-in tonight, Kristen? Do you have anything in mind?
Well, you kind of covered it with a show of hands, so
well, let's introduce, we'll have Jenny and Tori introduce themselves. Cool. And then why don't we just have everybody just kind of say how you're doing since Sunday? Like, did you get rest? What did you think of Sunday? I really want to know, like, are you feeling, after Sunday, are you feeling overwhelmed? And maybe on a 1 to 10 scale, what is your sense around being able to succeed through this program after knowing everything that it's going to take? Like, are you worried Are you like, oh, I was a total 10 coming into things, and then when I learned what, Kristen has this outlined for us for the next 12 weeks, now I'm like a 5, and I'm a little nervous that I'm going to be able to pull this off. And be honest. So remember that this is the Sangha. This is a safe space. This is a place to speak the truth. So these little check-ins are what we would call a satsang. And a satsang is sharing the truth, or speaking the truth, or singing the truth. So when we do that within the context of a Sangha, it's really important that you just allow yourself to be heartfelt and to be honest and open. And to the best of all of our ability, we will try not to judge, and hold that space, because there's also that education in the way that we converse in this kind of elevated way. This is not just a normal kind of casual conversation. We're all here to learn. We're all here for development. And yeah. Did you cut your hair, Kristen?
No, it's growing.
Oh.
Cool. So why don't we start right with Jenny, since you're like right in the first upper left corner. Tell us how you're feeling, introduce yourself, and if you got a chance to watch the recording, how do you feel about being overwhelmed?
Hi, my name is Jenny, and I did watch the recording. I was up until like midnight Monday night trying to get caught up. So I think I'm good now. Once I finished it, I was kind of overwhelmed when I realized I missed the first class. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old. Things are a little crazy here right now with teaching them from home and running a business. So I just completely spaced it. But I think that I'm back on track and feeling okay. I mean, I think once we start learning more, it might get a little more overwhelming, but right now I'm good.
There's going to be, I just want to speak to the anxiety that some people might be feeling, because there is a kind of a hump you get over, and it starts to get very, like, you build the muscle to do the thing. And then it starts to get, you actually learn a lot more with less effort after a while, if that makes sense. You kind of build a metabolism for it. So trust us. Kristen can nod in agreement that it happens every time. It happens. Just stick with it, and you'll get to that point where you're like, oh, I'm hungry for more. You just continue to build more and more of an appetite. Good to have you, Jenny. Do you have any prior knowledge of the chakras, or any curiosities or insights about it that you'd like to share?
I mean, I've been doing yoga for 20-ish years or so now, so I've definitely heard of them. I bought a book last year about them, intending to learn, and I haven't read it. So I know a little bit. I've browsed through it, but.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you know what book it is, or what's called?
Off the top of my head.
Okay, no worries.
A basic overview. Yeah, but.
Gotcha.
Cool. Thank you. Good to have you. Tori, why don't you do the same? Introduce yourself. Tell us, if you know anything about the chakras, if you're interested, or where you're feeling as far as overwhelm.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Tori. I am excited to be here and actually join training. How I'm feeling since Sunday, I have watched the recordings up to the posture workshop. I hit about 10 o'clock last night, and I couldn't retain any information. I wanted to make sure I was actually learning from it rather than just listening to it. So I'm up to there, but I'm hoping that I can get to it by the end of day today so I can be fully caught up. Sense of success on a scale of 1 to 10 is feeling about a 7. I know this is something I can do. I just have to, don't laugh at me, Austin. I have to put my pen to paper, I have to get my planner out and go old school with all of this, just to get everything all organized and scheduled out. Then once I have that fully done, I'll be much more confident.
I would never laugh at that, by the way. I think that's a great plan for success. Putting it in the planner is huge. Mm-hmm.
That's past the digital. I need to have pen to paper and just cross it off, going back to like college days, because that's about the workload that I had back when I was in college. So did that. I can do this, but I just have to get it all organized first. And then how I feel about the chakras, I don't really know much else past kind of listening to different teachers during Chakrathon and kind of talking about the different chakras and the energy centers around them, but really I can't say anything in detail about any specific chakra.
Cool. Well, We'll all just give one of these as a welcome to you too. Jenny and Tori, we're so glad to have you. Welcome to the Sangha, and the warmest of welcomes for sure.
Cool, thank you. Good to have you. Just kind of going down the line. Christian, you're next.
Can people hear me? Yes, good, okay. So I still have not bought a microphone, so I'm still figuring that out. And since Sunday, I feel pretty good. Honestly, I've just had a little more time to look through the classroom and everything, and that is encouraging just because it seems pretty organized. Everything seems pretty straightforward. So I feel good. I know it'll get more difficult, but like you guys were saying, it's kind of about building scaffolding. So, and then chakras, I know a little bit. I know different chakras correspond to different things. I looked through the manual a little bit, but it's definitely outside of my boundaries a little bit. So I kind of look forward to learning new things about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian.
Thank you. Hey, Austin, before I forget, was Cheryl joining us tonight?
She was. I'll check on that while you.
Okay, cool. Max, how are you doing? Tell us about all the stuff we want to hear.
All right, can you hear me?
Kayla, run.
So Kayla and I are like feet away from each other, and there's this whole thing that just happened there. It's pretty sick. So since Sunday, honestly, I feel very confident about this. I was very nervous going into it, just, you know, natural anxiety and not quite sure whether or not I could do well at a whole new process, I guess. I don't even know. But you guys made it very comfortable. Again, the Cambio community is just lovely as is, and it just makes me super excited for it. Since Sunday, I've just been doing little bits of studying, you know, as much as I possibly can between work and home. And as for chakras, I know absolutely nothing. This is all absolutely new to me. So I'm excited to learn more and kind of see where I can go with that. And yeah, I'm just really excited for this whole process. I'm super stoked. It's a really cool thing. It's like a lifetime thing as well. Sorry, I have to turn my phone.
I love the positivity, Max.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Try to be.
Absolutely, no. And so Tori and Jenny, they're in Pittsburgh, just so you know. So, and I take it you two are in Colorado, yes? Jenny and I know Tori is. Yeah, okay, cool.
Cool. Thanks for the like psychedelic start. That was wild. What's happening? That's like my brain on a daily basis. It was awesome. Belle, how are you? Tell us all the things.
Hi guys, I'm doing okay. I have moths on the back of my arms on both of them, and since I'm home, I went back to my tattoo artist and got them touched up, and then fainted afterwards. So I got a big old slice of humble pie today. Got to hang out with him a little bit in the shop, so I'm a little bit still tired after that, but I'm happy to be here. My confidence for the program, I would say, is about from like a 9 to a 7. I know it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for me to get back into school, but it's also kind of like as soon as I get more into it and the farther I get, I know I'll be more secure in it as well. And the chakras, I would say I have like a pretty beginner's perspective on them. I've done a little bit of research on my own. I also bought a book that I read halfway and don't know the name of off the top of my head. But yeah, so happy to be here and excited for this class, yeah.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, and you'll fall right back into it. Like Austin said, you'll start to develop the muscle for it. So don't stress. I told my group on the first day, like sometimes it's 1 minute at a time. So
It'll be good to be back in Colorado Springs because I leave on Thursday. So I'm still at my parents' house. I'm like not at my home base, but once I get settled, I'm sure it'll be a lot easier too.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Thank you. Diana, you're up next, please.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Let's see how I'm feeling since Sunday. So after Sunday, honestly, I was a little bit overwhelmed, but I started looking through the sequences just to see how that would go if I could even get that in my head. And once I tried to break it down a little bit, and it's been fun. It's been fun to practice those. And of course, I'm not very far, but even just the little bit that I feel like I'm a little more comfortable. And every time I said it, felt a little more comfortable. And so that's felt good for me. I mean, knowing that there's a lot more, but that I've at least started that little piece made me feel more comfortable. Sense of success. I think also I'm reading True Yoga, that book, and I just love it. I mean, it's really spoken to my heart. So combination of both of those things, I think sense of success right now, I'm gonna say a high 8. How I feel about the chakras, I'm really interested in the chakras. I actually just had a Reiki session a few days ago, and it was amazing. My whole family did. And I'm very interested in learning more about them. I know some about them, but I can't wait to learn more.
Cool. Well, I'm glad your anxiety has had a outlet to funnel into by reading the sequence and True Yoga, Diana. That's a
Me
great,
too.
that y'all should take a cue from her, because that is a great idea. When you get that anxious energy, pull it out of your head and focus it into your work. Get into your homework.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we throw a lot at you on the first day, so you'll have time to let it settle. Now you get little bits and pieces. So Caleb, how are you? Tell us all the things.
Good. My internet went out, I guess, when this whole thing started, and I had to run downstairs and reset the modem and all this stuff. So what were the questions? I'm sorry.
So how are you feeling since Sunday? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your sense of being able to be successful in the program? And maybe something that you're excited to learn about the chakras or something along that line.
Okay. Feeling great. From Sunday, it was a lot of information, but much needed information. My confidence level in Cambio or in myself, or like kind of both?
For your own success to finish the training, and after you've learned everything that it's going to take, how do you feel 1 to 10 about your own ability to accomplish?
I would say like, I would say like 8 or 9, I guess. Very high expectations, very confident. With the chakras, I know a little bit. I think I know the crown is purple or something like that, but I don't, and we have our root, but I don't know very much. But I'm very excited to learn about it, and yeah, very minimal knowledge.
Nice. Awesome, Caleb. I love your shirt too, by the way.
Thank you.
Tigers are my favorite animal.
Put your paws up.
Apparently my mute button doesn't want to work anymore. So Kayla, I will try to be better with the enunciation of Kayla and Caleb. But you're not up yet, so hang on. Corey, you're next.
My space didn't want to work either. I'm good. I just got back from work at like 5:45. So if you see a black screen, it's me eating dinner. After Sunday, I'm probably at about a 7. I know I can do it, but I don't think I realized how much I had forgotten, just in terms of the sequencing, because I used to do vinyasa almost every day. And so I thought I knew it, and I forgot most of it. So that was good, but I know I can do it, and it'll just be scheduling. After I get back from traveling next week, I'm going to start doing a schedule of just practicing, even just vinyasa on my own, and trying to get that more often. So it's just going to be scheduling everything. And in terms of the chakras, I had a class at UCCS where we did yoga, and I know we went over all of the chakras, but that's been like 10 years. So it's been quite a while since I've dove into that side, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
Who was your teacher at UCCS, Corey?
I have no idea. It was through the nursing program. And so it was a teacher I hadn't had before. I just had to take I was in high school, so I had to take a PE elective. So I did yoga.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
And don't feel like you've got to turn the screen off to eat, by the way, people. Human needs, take care of your human needs. Feel free to stay on. For as disconnected as we already are having to use Zoom, I think it's really important that we keep all of our screens on all the time, even if we're, eating, and it's no big deal. Because it's the same thing, even if we were in the studio and we were eating in front of each other, we couldn't block it out. So don't be embarrassed by it.
Yes, but we don't need to go to the bathroom with anyone, so. That note, Trinidad, how are you? Tell us the things.
Hi, everybody. I'm doing great. I haven't studied, really study in a while, where I had to be super responsible to learn the material. I'm always reading, but this was great because obviously I enrolled in the program because I needed a challenge, and I wanted this challenge. So I was just sort of confused. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to remember how to sit down and study? And actually to sit down, that's just something that's challenging sometimes for me. I'm very mobile. I like to move, and because of the work I used to do, I moved all the time. So I'm working through sitting down and studying and memorizing. The first thing I was like, I need to really learn what's my left and my right side, because that's never been something that I'm left-handed. So I'm sort of convinced that the hand that I write with is my right hand. But so I'm like left, right, and then all I repeat in my head is inhale, exhale, and so I'm walking around the house just like that. And but I'm excited. I have this philosophy that if I start thinking too much, I have to stop. Today I was talking with a friend, and I said the friends and family, and then I said, no, I can't think about that. I can't go there because I'm going to start having acid reflux or something, because I can't. So I said, no, let's not think about it. I'm just going to go read. I got the book today, The True Yoga. And so I have this kind of exciting feeling, when you're super young and you go back to school and you get your materials and you put your name on it. And so that's good. The chakra, not really. They are always mentioned in the rooms. I never paid a lot of attention. But then this year, before I signed up for yoga, I thought I will learn something new. So I bought the book with the wheels. I think I told Austin when I met you, right?
Yeah, The Wheels of Life by Anadia Judith.
And it because I just wanted to learn, so I'm really the excitement of having a beginner's mind. I love it because I just want to take it all in, and so that's it. And I did not scale my anxiety. I'm just gonna go through it one day at a time, I think. And I'm happy to be here tonight.
Perfect. Yeah. The the new student excitement and jitters are always fun. So
Well, we get them too, Kristen.
we do.
That's why I really hope you all know that. Like it's so important for us to have a positive experience with this as well, because we are so invested in it. We care so much about this program. And so, you know, we don't really look at it like teacher student. We're like right here with you. You know, we want to have a great experience, and we want you to have a great experience. And both of those two things are contingent upon each other. So just know that.
Absolutely. Kayla, do you want to go?
Run, Max. Get out of there.
My turn to banish Max. So when I first started the classes, I was super nervous because I didn't get a chance to look at or attend the info session. So I was just talking to Austin about it, and I had no idea when the training actually started. So then when I found out the date, I was like, oh crap, because we started yoga teacher training Sunday, and then my new job started yesterday. So I was like, oh my God, new career path and everything. Like I got out of restaurants, I'm doing something different now. And then going back to school for the first time in like 10 years. So I was stressed initially, but after Sunday, I feel pretty good. I'm excited. Probably like an 8 out of 10. I'm excited to learn again. I'm excited to meet everybody and have this little community. I'm really just scared about the public speaking aspect of things, but I'll get over it. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to just be learning again and getting out there, because like I said, it's been forever since I've done school. I also bought a book about the chakras right before I signed up for class. I haven't read it yet. This is with my books that I also bought on like gardening and other things that I resolved to learn about this year. So just basic understanding. And other than that, I have not gotten a lot of sleep because this job starts, I have to be there at like 7:45 a.m. and that's when I'm usually doing yoga at home instead. So I've got to kind of change my routines up a little bit, because not doing yoga every day or every other day is just not going to fly. I got to have a workout in there somewhere. So, but I'm excited.
Awesome. Who's the author of that book, Kayla?
Margarita Alcantara.
Okay, cool. Never heard of it.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it is whenever I get
All right,
in.
yeah, do that. Thanks.
Cool. And now my thing just unmuted itself. So there we go. Katie, tell us the things.
Okay, I'm doing pretty well. Coming into this, I was kind of worried about, I can't hear myself when I have this in. I was kind of worried about combining my teacher obligations and this stuff, just because teaching looks a lot different this year. But I'm actually finding that having something else on my calendar cuts me off from working too hard in my regular job. So that's nice to have that break, especially because it's something that I'm excited about and interested in learning. So I don't feel like I'm going through this like checklist of, oh, I have to get this done. It's more like a, yay, I got to go observe a yoga class tonight. Sweet. So that's been kind of cool. So I think I'm feeling like an 8 or a 9 overall, and I'm rating it a little lower than a 10 because I think that the sequencing is going to take me a little bit of time. Not just like the order of the sequence, but more the words that I'm going to use. I was practicing the other day and I said inhale and outtail. So just things that hopefully, as Austin said, will come with a little bit less effort later, because right now I feel like I'm overthinking things quite a bit. And then as far as the chakras go, I was kind of interested in them before, but hadn't really learned anything about them. And then when I was looking through the book list that you guys sent out, I just bought the Wheels of Life because I'm kind of obsessed with the classes that are themed. So they come and they kind of center you with a quote, and then the movements are based around that quote. And so I just finished reading the one on the root chakra, and it's cool because it gives you like the meditation, and then it gives you postures that help to ground you. So I'm kind of excited to play around with matching the themes to the movements. I think that was it.
Awesome, Katie. Yeah, I mean, the whole out hail thing, I think every yoga teacher has always said that. And I actually taught this in my yin class last night, which is a secret knowledge from the ancient wisdom traditions, which is rule number 6. Do you remember what rule number 6 is, Caleb, from yin class last night?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Damn, exactly. We'll all go a lot farther as yoga teachers in life with our students. We can remember rule number 6. And then the inevitable question is, well, what's rules 1 through 5? And you go, it just says see rule 6. Just see rule 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've like cued, instead of putting hands on shins or thighs, I've said shies or thins. So you're fine. Don't worry about it. Out hail is no big deal. Flo, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm about the same after Sunday. So around at 8, I'm still really excited about it. This is kind of really refreshing, I find, because I'm still doing a whole lot of school on a different side. So this is like really nice, actually. I guess I'm a little more nervous about the sequences, not because of the order, or just that I'm used to doing things and saying them. So now I'm trying to say them without having to do them, since I realized that we're supposed to be focused more on like being more attentive to our students and not actually doing the movements. So that's a little harder for me to wrap my mind around, but I'm trying to visualize it so that I can remember what I need to say next or what comes next. Just because that's probably my biggest challenge, is just not doing it physically. I have like a little disconnect with what I want to say or what I should say next. And in regards to chakras, I've heard the words used, but I've never really explored what it actually entailed. So I don't know too much about it. I did read a little bit from the manual from the YYT, so that gave me a little bit of an understanding. So now it sort of makes a little sense why sometimes my teachers would use the words when they were doing their yoga, but I never really investigated till now. So I'm looking forward to learning more.
Awesome. Thanks, Flo.
Cool, thank you. And that's all of the students. We have Cheryl joining us tonight. And Cheryl is helping out with the extended teacher training. And what do you want to do? You wanted to brush up on your chakras and all that fun stuff. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm a graduate of the Cambio YTT program, and I currently teach both a regular class on Sunday mornings, and then I work as part of the adjunct faculty teaching with the extended program. And I'm slated to teach a couple of chakras next month, in the next month to 2 months. And I've lurked in Austin and Kristen's chakra nights multiple times. And I always find that every time I hear it presented, there's a fresh perspective or a fresh, wow. And so I thought this was a good chance to sort of revisit and get that excitement back before I'm in the seat of the teacher one more time. So teachers always are in the seat of the student. And if nobody warned you about that, you're going to be learning for the rest of your life. Just know that. So you'll be teacher and student, student and teacher all at the same time. And that's it. I'm just going to lurk in the corner.
Glad to have you here, Cheryl. And feel free to, if you have, because Cheryl is an extremely wise woman. So if you have things that are going to help us out, don't be afraid to interject and either write them in the chat or put a hand up and share, okay? Because it's your golden nuggets are always worth it.
Absolutely. Cool. Austin, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Um, I was up early. I'm doing this thing. Nuggets aren't gold. Uh-huh. I'm pretty good. Actually, I was just flying high after Sunday. I felt really good about it. I'm just stoked about this group. I'm looking forward to the fall. I can't believe the equinox is next week, next Monday. And yeah, this weekend is the 300-hour finale. So we do a 300-hour teacher training where, people who graduate the 200-hour, you basically like getting your bachelor's. If you want to get your master's, you do the 300-hour. And it goes from January to October. Normally, this one's a month earlier because the way things shook out because of COVID. And I'm just yesterday I was kind of just wrapping my head around like, oh my gosh, how are we going to pull this off? Is this possible? And now the anxiety is channeled into some really positive forces, and I'm super stoked about the weekend, and I just can't believe it's here. So that's where I'm at. How about you, Kristen? How are you?
I am here. I'm here. My husband is gone away. He's been gone since Wednesday. And he'll be coming back sometime this week. I'm not sure exactly when. But Jenny, I also have a 4-year-old, so I understand completely, although I have a 22-year-old and they kind of act like they're 4 and 6. So, so she's watching him now, and she just texted me to let me know she's gonna put a movie on for him. So if it kills the Wi-Fi, to let her know. So yeah, this is the circus I'm in right now. It's fine. We're fine. But yeah, I'm just like Austin. I always get nervous and apprehensive before a teacher training because, like he said, we put so much into it. And this one was kind of a little bit different because I just got my hat put away from one teacher training and then was like, oh crap, let's do the next one. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for downtime for just okay, let's take a couple of breaths. But seeing all your faces on Sunday and getting to interact with you and just you reset it for me. So thank you for showing up and being here and being willing to work. So yeah, doing good now. But I think you want to do a meditation. Should we do the meditation and just dive right in? All right, so each night, I'll kind of give you a quick rundown of what each chakra night will look like. So this first chakra night, we will, like Austin said, we'll give you an overview of what the chakra system is, what it's all about, and then we'll dive into the first chakra, the root chakra. So each night we'll do a little bit of a check-in, and we'll talk about what the check-ins are going to look like from here on out, because from here on out they're going to be a little bit more structured. They're not going to be just kind of, how are you? We want to know how you are, but they're not going to be quite that loose. So we'll do a check-in, and then usually we'll do a meditation to get you in the groove of the chakra that we're going to be talking about. And then we'll do our little talk about the chakra, give you go over the matrix and everything like that. And then you'll have some chakra homework. So I know I gave you a lot of things on Sunday to do and to expect, but you'll have some chakra homework as well. But hopefully the chakra homework isn't a daunting thing. So some of the things you'll get to do are to get out in nature, maybe take a bath, things like that. So things that are going to really give you more of an experiential taste of what each chakra is about, rather than just us talking at you and you nodding in agreement. Okay. So this first meditation is actually going to be all of the chakras. So what I would like for you to do is to get into a comfortable position, whether it is seated or lying down, whatever you need to do to make yourself comfy. And then once you have yourself comfortable, if you're seated, try to let your spine grow tall. And you can let your eyes close if that's comfortable, or keep your gaze soft at a point that you can focus on. And start to come down into your breath, into your body, leaving behind anything that happened during the day or anything that's to come. And start to relax your belly and soften your mind. Feel the support beneath you and connect with the ground below. And let it take your weight. Become aware of the sounds around you, near and in the distance, and let them be there. Sense the sky above and the horizon stretching all the way around you. And draw yourself back from wherever you've been in your day. And as you begin to sense the space around you, allow yourself to breathe with that space. Become aware of the rise and the fall of your breath. It's coming and going. The sensation, the sound, the temperature. Begin to breathe down to where the weight of your body rests, below the base of your spine, to your root, your chakra of belonging. Breathe into your root. Let it soften and gently expand on your breath, taking in nourishment and life force energy. Allow your root to connect down to the ground below, deep into the earth. And invite in the color red, the color of the earth. Bathe your root with red, empowering, embodying, grounding you in the here and now. Let your root take what it needs as you mentally say the words, I am here. I have a right to be here as I am. And the earth supports me. And when you're ready, allow your awareness to slowly move up towards your belly, just below your navel, towards your sacral chakra, your chakra of emotional intelligence, choice, creativity, movement, and pleasure. Breathe into your sacral chakra. Let it gently soften and expand on your breath, taking in nourishment and life force energy. And invite in orange, the color of the setting sun. Bathe it with orange, balancing, empowering, and motivating. Let it be fed and say the words, I honor my needs. I allow myself to be nourished. And again, when you're ready, drawing your awareness up to the soft area below your breastbone, to your solar plexus, your chakra of personal power. Breathe into here, allowing your solar plexus to soften and expand on your breath. And invite in the color yellow, the color of sunshine. Bathe your solar plexus with sunshine, replenishing, restoring, and nurturing. Let it take what it needs. As you say the words, I value myself. I am enough. I am more than enough. And gently draw your awareness up to the center of your chest, to your heart, your chakra of self-development and unconditional love. Gently breathe into your heart, letting it soften and expand on your breath. Invite in green, the color of spring, or rose pink, whichever feels right. Bathe your heart center with nourishment, renewal, and healing, allowing it to take what it needs as you say the words, I am greatly loved. I allow myself to give and receive love freely. I am nourished by the power of love. And in your own time, moving up to your neck, to your throat, your chakra of self-expression and personal will. Allow your throat center to soften, expand, and breathe. Here, inviting in blue, the color of the sky. Breathe sky into your throat center, clearing, opening, softening the need for control and freeing self-expression and creativity. Let your throat take what it needs and say the words, I hear and speak my truth. I express myself freely. And begin, as you're ready, to take your focus up towards your forehead, between your eyebrows, to your third eye, your chakra of wisdom and intuition. Gently allowing it to soften, expand, and breathe. Invite in indigo, the velvety color of the night sky. Bathe your third eye with indigo, soothing, balancing, bringing clarity, insight, and understanding. Let your third eye take what it needs as you say the words, everything is unfolding as it should. And finally, moving up in your own time to the top of your head, to your crown, your chakra of oneness, allowing it to breathe. And gently invite in a light violet, a white, or a gold, whatever it appears to you. Softly bathing your crown, balancing, restoring, and harmonizing. Let it take what it needs as you say the words, I am one with the universe. I am one with the whole. when you're ready, come back to yourself as a whole. Back to the flow, the ebb and the flow of your breath, back into your center. Breathe into your core and say the words, I am whole. I am perfect as I am. Allow the energy of the words to bathe your mind, your body, your emotions and spirit, and take what you need. And slowly start to become aware once again of the air on the surface of your body, the sounds around you near and in the distance. And take a couple of deep, steady breaths. And when you feel ready, you can let your eyes flutter open. If you're lying down, roll to one side or the other to come up to a seat. Maybe make some small movements before you stand up. If you'd like to share about the meditation or your experience or anything like that, you're welcome to. We're happy to hear.
I'm not very good at meditation yet. So I know that that's something I've been trying to work on my own, is just trying to find some silence and get out of the whirlwind. So I'm hoping to get better at that through the course too.
Cool, yeah. Meditation is a practice just like the physical asana practice. So it takes work.
Yeah, Ralph Gates, a really great yoga teacher in Santa Cruz, talks about how yoga is where everyone should start, but meditation is a grown-up practice. That's really when meditation clicks in for you. That's when you know that you're starting to mature as a spiritual being. So know that that's a common thing for a lot of people, to really feel kind of that tension with meditation. Like, people really want it and they know that it gives them this peace and calmness, but a lot of times you're trying to kind of juice the mind with the mind. You're fighting yourself rather than, and that's what hopefully the yoga practice teaches us over time, is that it's not about anything we're doing. None of the results or benefits, even from the yoga, that we get come from what we're doing. It ultimately comes from the way in which we surrender into it and release into it. So it's kind of it's a paradox, and have to invert your brain around the way we normally approach things with ambition and accomplishment to really achieve success with it.
Anybody else want to share anything?
Well, Caleb, go ahead.
Just really quick, just visualizing the colors and the sections of, the areas of the chakra was really, good visualization. I enjoyed it. That's all I want to say.
Cool, thank you.
Doesn't Kristen have the best voice for meditation too? It's just so do y'all know what ASMR is? Has anybody heard of that? Yeah, she's got an ASMR voice, if you know what that is. If you don't worry about it. Tori, do you have a comment? Please.
I think it's interesting to see, during the meditation, what's easier to focus on and which one creates tension or hesitation, even when you're trying to focus on it, how there's just friction, regardless of, for lack of a better word.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we'll get to know that friction and also resonance really well. The ones that we like. I mean, that's what we're going to discover through going all these. Each of them are kind of locations of our personality, and we're going to go, oh, I really jive with that one, and oh boy, the second chakra, or whatever it might be. You know, you'd be like, yikes, I have a lot of work to do there. So that's going to be a big piece of this, is the way we relate to each of these aspects of ourselves. Because whether you believe in the chakras or not, they do each isolate really well distinct aspects of the human psyche and personality. So that's going to be useful for us. Kristen, why don't you break it down? Tell us about the chakra theory system in the West.
So if you want to follow along in your manual, what page am I on? Section 3.3 says Chakras, Introduction and Background, and that's page 28. So we kind of touched on this. A couple of you have the book, Wheels of Life. And so the Sanskrit word chakra, if you want to get really fancy with it, you get that little R roll in there. It actually translates to wheel or disc. So that's where Wheels of Life comes from. And so when we think about wheels or discs, they refer to a swirling or a vortex of energy in the body. And where these 7 main chakras, they align with the spine from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. And if you're more inclined to the science part of things rather than the energy part of things, know that each of these 7 main chakras correspond with either a major nerve bundle in the body, a major organ in the body, or an endocrine gland, or sometimes all of the above. So, you know, they do have a little bit correlation with science. The energy that's contained in each of these chakras is called prana, or vital life force energy. Have you all heard that word prana before? Okay. So prana being the vital life force energy, it's the foundation of life within the universe. Just a little explanation around that. It comes into the body through the food we eat, the air we breathe, or absorbed energies from the earth. Pretty much anything that you're bringing into your body can give prana or deplete prana. Prana in the body travels through channels called nadis, N-A-D-I. And nadi is a word that loosely translates to channel or flow. And it's believed that there's upwards of 72,000 nadis in the body. Depending on what lineage or what school of thought you follow, the numbers are all over the place. But from a general yogic perspective, it's about 72,000 nadis. The main ones that we're concerned with, there's really only 3 that we're really concerned with here in regards to the chakras. And so we have Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. And so they're kind of fun to say if you wanted to try it on your own. Ida, so it's I-D-A, and that's the moon, the mental energy associated with the female energy, left nostril, right hemisphere of the brain. How these interplay with each other is they all start at the base of the spine. So Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, they all start at the base of the spine, and they travel up the spinal column. Sushumna is the central channel, and I'll explain that in a moment, but think of it as like a hollow reed that follows the spinal cord, okay? And Ida and Pingala spiral around Sushumna in a double helix type pattern. And so anytime they pass each other, so anytime Ida and Pingala pass over Sushumna is generally where you find one of the 7 major chakras, okay? And so we have Ida, which, like I said, is the moon, mental energy, female. Pingala is, of course, the other end of the spectrum with that. So it's the sun energy, vital energy. Anytime you're doing, right, it's that forceful energy associated with the male energy, right nostril, left hemisphere of the brain. And like I said, they both start at the root. Ida flows to the left in and out of the other chakras and ends at the left nostril. And then Pingala does the opposite, starts at the right, ends at the right. And Sushumna, like I said, that's that central channel, that's your spiritual energy. It starts just below the root chakra and runs straight up the spine through all the main chakras. The tricky thing with the Sushumna and Ida and Pingala is that Sushumna is the only one that goes through all 7 chakras. Ida and Pingala stop at the third eye and they cross and exit out of the nostrils. And Sushumna goes all the way through the crown chakra. And that was a lot. So what questions, what thoughts do you have after hearing all of that?
Could you just visualize where the Pingala and Ida start on the base of the spine again, and which nostrils they come out?
So Ida is left or lunar, and they all of them start at the base of the spine. Okay, so all of them start right about the sacrum, and they intertwine. Sushumna comes out through the crown. So think of that central channel, right, as like a pole, right, like a maypole almost. And then the other chakras spiral around, but they stop at the third eye and exit out of their corresponding nostrils. So they always start on one side and end on the same side.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
A maypole.
Maypole.
I've heard of that. What is that? Don't worry about it.
Tetherball? Well,
I'll ask
tether-
Mommy Google. Got it. So now you have kind of the physiology of the subtle body. Okay, so this is, when we're talking about the chakras, what we're really talking about is one aspect of the subtle body. Okay, so what I mean by subtle body is like the physical body, my hand, my body, this would be the gross body. Okay, not gross as in ew, even though there are aspects of it that are very ew, right? We all poop and sneeze and whatever. But gross meaning it's dense, it's matter. Subtle body meaning that the particulates of it are not as dense. They aren't necessarily made of matter. They exist on another dimension and this dimension simultaneously at the same time. These are kind of some of the philosophical paradoxes we kind of have to engage with intellectually with yoga, is that there's a bit of a pointing, even though the word multi-dimension never really comes into it, there's kind of this, in some of the yoga philosophy, some of this that goes on. So now that we've got the anatomy of the subtle body, or at least an aspect of the anatomy, we won't go any further into the other aspects of the subtle body. That would be for the 300 hours. So, well, I guess you'll go into the Vayus a little bit with Amber, but the rest of it, not necessary for beginner level teaching. I think it's helpful to put the chakras into a little bit of context so we understand that, you know, in the overarching history of yoga, we're talking, you know, some of the things that we base the roots of origin of yoga on are 5,000 years plus old, right? Chakras don't really show up until 1100 in the Common Era. So we're talking less than 1,000 years ago. So chakras are, even though they're very, very old, I mean, you know, 900 years old, it's still not as old. The systems weren't The book you're reading, True Yoga, by the way, right? Some of you have started already, Flo. I think you said you started. No, wait, who said they started it? Oh, yeah, right. Kayla and maybe Katie and Diana. Okay, so that's based off of the Yoga Sutras. Even the Yoga Sutras, around 200 common era don't mention the chakras. So it's not till much later where yoga kind of evolves into more of a tantric practice, meaning, yoga comes down the pipeline so many different ways. And basically what we're learning about is hatha yoga practices. So if we heard the word hatha, it looks like hatha, but it's actually pronounced hatha. So if you want to try to get that used in your mouth, go ahead and just say hatha. Hatha yoga is, about the same amount of years old as the chakras. And this is one of the beautiful things about the history of the chakras, is that it gives normal people, all people, access to enlightenment in a way that is really personal, distinct, and unique, and a-religious. So that's really something to understand. There are very religious styles of yoga. There are very ambiguous styles of yoga, but the chakra system, by and large, is a-religious. What I mean by a-religious is that it is not religious. It is not dogmatic. It is not institutionalized. It is a discipline, though. And it is a discipline that you achieve enlightenment through specific techniques and practices. Whereas older forms of yoga, they would say, well, if you want to achieve the supreme, because remember what we're doing. We have to begin this by all asking the question, what is the goal of yoga? Well, we have two answers for that. We have, what is our knowledge around the goal of yoga, right? So like, well, it makes me feel better and I want to share that with people. But there's also this concept of the original goal of yoga. So the original goal of yoga is to find liberation and salvation, right? So it is a Sorientological practice, just like Christianity, just like, the whole purpose of it is to free you, Buddhism, to free you from suffering. So is that news to anybody that the goal of yoga is to find liberation from suffering? Is that news to anybody? Put your hand up if, yeah, a little bit. Okay, cool. Because that was always shocking to me. I had no idea. I did yoga for years and just thought, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I never even thought about it. I just took for granted all of that. What's so beautiful about the chakra system in Hatha Yoga is that it gives us a way to find that freedom, to find that liberation from suffering for anybody. If you already have a pre-existing belief system, that's okay. The practices still work. If you're atheistic or a-religious, that's okay. The practices can still work for you. And that's what's so unique about it as well, is that they are focused around practices. Other forms of yoga have different forms of practice. For the thousands of years before the chakras really show up, all yoga is arguing about is which form of practice is better. And the two main modes are devotional practices to God, like singing, hymns, things like that, versus wisdom, learning about basically the divine and the self, the big S self and God, things like this. And it isn't until Hatha Yoga comes along and gives us a very different take on things and says, those things aside, we're going to use 4 things. We're going to use 4 techniques to really crack this case open for you. So I always like to use the metaphor of a table. So the table is the yoga practice, right? But we can't have a table without 4 legs. And the 4 legs of the table are asana, which we know are the postures, right? Pranayama, which we know is the breathing techniques. Meditation, which we can simply just call a way to train the mind. To train the mind on what? To focus the mind on what? Well, that is the question, and we're going to get to that. And then the final one, and this is the beautiful thing about yoga that makes it so unique, is surrender. There has to be surrender. There's deep, so we kind of Western wash the idea of surrender by calling it deep relaxation in a lot of like more clinical aspects of yoga. But really, going back to what I was saying is like at the very beginning of the night is you don't receive benefits from yoga by forcing your will and performing these techniques from a place of ego. It's actually only until you let go of the ego and really surrender to something and allow whatever it is that moves through you to move through you, and to surrender to that process, trusting the process, being open to grace, divine influence, something greater than yourself. You know, you can call it whatever you want. I don't care. Cosmic consciousness, influence of the universe, circumstance of consciousness, whatever you want to call it, does not matter. But just so we're clear, it's asana, pranayama, meditation, and what you will soon learn to call Ishvara Pranidhana, which is essentially just surrender to something greater than yourself. Well, what is the something greater than myself? It can literally just be yoga. It can just be the practice. It can be God too, though. Okay? But you tap into it through the practice. You tap into it by letting go of what you think the outcomes are going to be, what you're attached to around it, what your expectations are. You show up on the mat, you do the work, and you let go of the rest. And that's that fourth limb of it. So the context of chakras, like I said, is very convoluted over the last thousands of years, because there were all these little pockets in the Indic region that would approach it differently. You know, you'd have northern India where you'd have it very much, there's a 5 chakra system. There's a 10 chakra system. There's a 12 chakra system. There's a 9 chakra system. Now, does that mean that the 7 chakra system is, oh, and yes, traditionally, tantrically, there was a 7 chakra system. Why did the West fall into that so well? Well, the way that we've interpreted chakras through the West comes largely through filters. There is a guy named John Woodruff, wrote a book called The Serpent Power. I would not recommend it. Super hard to read, super dense. If you want a book similar to him, basically it's on the psychology of the chakras. The next step would be Carl Jung's Chakra and Kundalini. But even better than that is that same author that y'all are reading, The Wheels of Life, Anadia Judith, has a book called Eastern Body, Western Mind. And that book I cannot recommend enough if you really get yourself fired up around using the chakras as a psychological system to understand yourself better. So John Woodruff did a ton of research on it and wrote stuff and got people in the West fired up. And it just so happened that the 7 chakra system was the one he learned. And then it was also adopted by a movement in America around the 20th century, the 1900s, the turn of the 1900s, called the Theosophical Society. Anybody ever heard of these folks? These are the people where we get modern kind of mesh of all the metaphysics, like Reiki and just any metaphysical concept that you've heard of in the West. You know how astrology, tarot cards, chakras. The Theosophical Society were these really interesting people who were just kind of peeling away ideas from all these different cultures and kind of westernizing it for their own ability. And is that wrong? No, not really. I mean, they came up with some cool concepts, but there is some ways in which they modified some of the chakra system theory to make it work for more of a Western accessibility, okay? So whereas John Woodruff's 7 chakra system is very traditional, and you'll find different colors that go along with the chakras, the Theosophical Society, the one that is more popular and more well-known today, because by and large, they were better writers. So note that. History likes good authors. If you can tell a good story, it doesn't always have to mean it is true, right? For it to outlast. But they were the ones who codified the chakras in the rainbow color coding. And they did so to make it more accessible in the West because they wanted their message to be accessible. So that raises the question, well, is it all bullshit? Excuse my language. And here's the answer. Find out for yourself. If you are meditating on the heart chakra and it shows up as this fire red color here, that is the traditional color, cool. If it shows up as green, like we call it in the West, cool. Doesn't matter to me. And you know, as long as you kind of have an understanding about where these things come from and there's respect for the tradition and just knowing that through cultural appropriation, which by the way, isn't always a bad thing, we learn and we can modify things and adapt them for the purpose of people's liberation, then what's wrong with that? So there's the context to the chakra theory. Any questions on that? I hope you could follow that. I hope I wasn't too like nerding out on that. We nerd out on this stuff hard. We love it. Okay, so give us a little bit of a break. Okay, cool. So yeah, so in the West, and that's, you know, in the 200 hour, that's why in the 300 hour, we focused on the more traditional 7 chakra system. In the 200 hour, you know, we just start where we're at. We start in the West. We start learning through this lens. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of parallels and a lot of things that connect. So to break it down in review, there's this thing called the subtle body. It's kind of like the energy body, you know, like we talk about the astral plane and your aura. Well, in the East, they called this the subtle body, and the very heart of it, the most important part of it, were the chakra system. And you've got nadis that flow through it, the rivers that hold the prana that give us life. Anything with life has nadis, but in a human being, it is special because it has 3 very important nadis: the Ida, the Pingala, the male and the feminine, the dark and the light, that cross at intersections with the Sushumna, which, by the way, Kristen was alluding to cleverly. Sushumna means hollow reed. It literally translates to hollow reed, and it is hollow. Prana does not exist in the Sushumna until we start to do these practices to some level of efficacy. So at first, your experience of the chakras might just be about engaging with them and relating to them and creating pranic balance and flow between the Ida and the Pingala at these locations. It isn't that we start to reach spiritual maturity, like I was talking about earlier, that Rolf Gates quote, yoga is for everybody, but meditation's a grown-up practice. When prana starts to get placed into the Sushumna and it starts to move up through the chakras, we have a completely different experience. We have a profound experience. We have what is called a mystical experience. And this is the experience we're actually after in yoga. So the last thing I want to say about this is you've got, now pulling back to the first question of what is the goal of yoga? Well, in the West, a lot of times yoga is being used as therapy. In Sanskrit, this is called chikitsa. And this is fine, you know, this is a valid form of yoga, but this is not why yoga was invented, and this is not the ultimate goal of yoga. The ultimate goal of yoga is to take a healthy being to a transcendent state. So essentially, most of the yoga that we do in the West is to get people up to a baseline of health and wellness. Most people come in because they're like, oh, my back hurts. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, my doctor says this will help me sleep better. Oh, this will help me recover from a surgery on my hip or whatever, right? These are all not the original purpose of yoga. And most people sadly quit once they get to that baseline of wellness. When in reality, in truth, this is where yoga really starts. This is where the path really begins to take you beyond yourself into these transcendent experiences. You know, and it's not just yogis. I mean, you look at every tradition, there are mystics. The Sufis have a handful of them, you know, that are really famous. Buddhists, I mean, Buddha was a mystic. Jesus was a mystic. You know, he had transcendent states. Every single religion has their people who were extraordinarily spiritually awake people. And notice I didn't say enlightened, because that is also another westernized word. Nowhere in any of these old yoga texts are you going to see that the goal of yoga is to become enlightened, because that word is kind of misappropriated. It doesn't mean much. The fellows of the Enlightenment era, you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson, his companion, what's his name? Help me out, Cheryl. I see you saying it. I can't read lips.
Thoreau.
Henry David Thoreau. You know, these guys were all students of the Bhagavad Gita. Well, this is a yoga text, but it's much, much older than what we're studying. All the stuff that we're used to nowadays, the postures, the breath work, the meditation, this is all from the Tantra and Hatha yoga traditions from the last 1,000 years. The Enlightenment era, that was from Bhagavad Gita. That's like 2000 BCE. So that's 4,000 years old. So this is back when people in yoga world were still arguing which is better, wisdom or devotion. Well, now in the West, and by and large in the East, because of cross-cultural interference, it's all about Hatha and Tantra. Even though if you still went to India today, most yogis you would meet would be called bhakti yogis. Do you know what a bhakti yogi is? Have you ever heard the word bhakta? So bhakti is a devotional yogi. You'll see them wearing the saffron robes, either the three stripes across the forehead, or the two down the middle, and then the one inside of that. And so it just depends on who they are devoted to, either Krishna or Shiva. But you know, in the East, most of the yoga teachers who are teaching asana and pranayama and meditation are doing so out of necessity to serve people from the West who want that. But the original tradition, history in the East, Hatha yoga never took off in India the way that it has in the West. Okay, enough for a history lesson. I could go on. Let's tap into the Muladhara chakra, okay? Are you guys with me? You tired? Am I blowing your minds or putting your minds to sleep? Somewhere in the middle? All right, drink lots of water, get sleep, ask good questions. But remember, I think always ask yourself, what's my big takeaway? You don't have to understand everything I'm saying. That's not the important thing. Focus on the things that zing you. Those are your takeaways. So maybe you missed everything I said, but the only thing you took away was what the goal of yoga is to find freedom, you know, to have salvation in a living, basically find salvation in your body, that you don't have to die. You know, that can happen too in yoga, where you find what's called moksha, freedom from suffering after life. But in yoga, what's called jiva mukti, to be a jivan mukti is possible, to have liberation from suffering while you're still alive. That's really what is meant by this term enlightenment. It's just poor wording. Okay. But you are awake. You are aware of things at a whole different level of consciousness that is really uncanny and transcendent and mystical compared to what 99.999% of the population is perceiving reality as. All right. So the Muladhara chakra. Kristen, do you want to go over the matrix? I feel like I've talked a lot here.
Okay, I've had an invasion.
Oh, I can go if you're.
Oh, you're good.
Distracted.
As long as you're quiet, okay? You can stay for a minute as long as you're quiet.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, we'll start at the base and work our way up the spine through the chakra system. So first we have the root chakra, or like Austin mentioned, Muladhara. Say it. It's fun. Roll it around in your mouth a couple times. It's a Muladhara. And so if you notice, if you're following along in the manual, underneath the name, Mula means root and Adhara means support or base. And so we have, yes, baby. So we have the element, each chakra is, I'll go over the matrix here for you. So each chakra has an element, a color, a location in the body, a bija sound, which is the seed sound or a chant, which we'll do, the function, and then we'll have physical expressions and emotional expressions, both of which can be balanced or imbalanced. And we'll talk about balanced and imbalanced because the scale tips in both ways. And then underneath you'll have ways to balance each one. And then the second page will be homework, like I mentioned. So with Muladhara, it's earth is the element. And the color is generally red or brown, the color of the earth. Location, base of the spine, the pelvic floor, bones, and teeth. So all of the structural areas of the body. So anytime you find, the foundational aspects of the body, that's associated with the root chakra. Its function, it serves as survival, grounding, your automatic habits or automatic behavior and your instincts. So this is where we get fight or flight, right? The reptilian brain that just kicks in and turns on when you don't have a whole lot of control over it. You with me so far? Okay. So when we look at physical expressions, so I talked about balanced and imbalanced, and when we have a chakra that's balanced or imbalanced, the imbalance can tip in both ways. So you can have too much prana in the chakra or too little prana. Okay, so it could be overactive or underactive. And we want to try to sway towards more middle ground with it. So when we look at physical expressions, we have bowel regularity, a strong lower back, and endurance. And then imbalances physically, we might see knee problems, weight problems, constipation, sciatica, rigidity. So, the fun ones, we get to talk about poop here with this chakra. Now, and keep in mind when we're looking at the different expressions, whether they're balanced or imbalanced, this is just an overall look at how the chakra functions within your body. So it's not necessarily like, oh, I have knee problems. Well, I must have, a bad Muladhara chakra, right? So this is just to kind of key you into different aspects of what the chakra might look like and how it functions in your body. So, you don't want to use it as a diagnostic tool necessarily. Emotional expressions, balanced might be acceptance, the right to exist, calmness, security, and stability. And then an imbalanced expression, you might see resentment, insecurity, panic, feeling ungrounded or unsupported, or fear. No. And I'm gonna mute this real quick so she can get him off to a bath.
Cool. So let's unpack a little bit of that. If we're going to look at this comparatively from the West and Eastern mindset of a psychological study of the mind, scientific study of the mind, look at the function there, survival, grounding. This is also functions as the center of control for locus of your habits. So all of your automatic behavior, instincts of flight or fight. Freeze is left out of this one because even though it is in the same part of the brain, the reptilian brain, which is represented by Muladhara, freeze is actually, in terms of yoga, a function of the second chakra, and we'll get into that. So the chakras end up taking us on a narrative journey, and it's all about waking up. It's all about bringing consciousness into different aspects of ourself, okay? So the root chakra is our primordial self. It's our most base self. It is the place of which consciousness wakes up into a state of just being completely unknown to the world. So in a lot of ways, the Muladhara chakra mind state is the beginner mind state. This is the perfect place we actually want to start places from. It lends itself to honest curiosity and also naivete, which can be taken advantage of very easily. And that's the thing about the chakras that makes them complex, is that there's this constant triangulation around this context of what Kristen said, the word balance, where we're trying to balance the chakras. So for instance, let's take a step back from the whole aspect of the root chakra being one of survival, and let's look at just a physical impression of it. So poop. We're going to talk about elimination. Okay, so elimination, very important aspect of not just what the body does, but also the mind, right? And the two are psychosomatically linked. You know, psycho meaning mind, soma meaning body. And when the imbalance of the root chakra moves one way on the physical plane, it can show up as constipation. When it goes out of balance the other way, and there's too much prana, it can be, loose stool or diarrhea. And so, like, this could be a question to ask yourself, to be like, oh, do I normally have, am I a person who is more like diarrhea prone or constipation prone, or do I eliminate pretty regularly? And then you can start to look at some of these other things in there. What is my relationship to fear? What is my relationship to my low back? Do I feel like I generally have a sense of acceptance in the world, in my place, a right to exist? These are, so like Kristen said, these aren't diagnostic tools to say, oh, I have diarrhea, it's because my root chakra is out of balance. Like, that's not what we're getting at. What we're getting at is trying to frame a conversation around, if the chakra can be in balance, right, perfectly balanced, it can also be out of balance, not one, but two ways. It can be overcharged with prana, too much prana. And so, for instance, like fear, panic, that can be a function of too much prana there, right? Not enough prana. Well, if the balanced emotional expression is a right to exist and insecurity is one of the imbalanced emotional expressions, maybe if you don't feel like you have a right to exist sometimes, if you feel just shameful being in your own body or sometimes, like, I know for me, when I was much younger, before I found yoga, shame was a big part of my life, and I dealt with it by running from it, by disembodying myself. So what I mean by that is, like, it's actually, in the West, you would call it disassociating. But what I really found through yoga, the therapy of yoga, the first step of yoga, that chikitsa, is to become embodied, to become present with what is, right? And yoga gave me that. And so yoga is beautiful in this way. And here's a big difference of the Western psychological model and the Eastern yoga subtle body science of the mind, is that by and large, most psychological models are really focused on the root cause, the meaning, reason, and analysis of things, and doesn't always present a knowing or even appropriate, what I would say as a prescription to deal with that, right? Like, how many times have I been in therapy where I'm talking with my counselor or therapist, and they're like, well, the reason you're this way is because your mom treated you this way when you were your kid. And you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. But knowing the root cause of something is kind of and has been for the last 150 years in the Western psychological model, has been kind of the supreme primary enterprise. Only now in some of these new schools of psychology, like positive psychology, even behavioral cognitive psychology, starting to get into it, are they starting to really not care so much about the analysis and really focusing on, okay, what's the symptoms and what are the functions of that, and then how can we treat that? Well, yoga's been invested in that all along. Yoga just says, all right, you're feeling insecure, you don't have a right to exist. Who cares why it happened? Let's work towards mending that. Let's work towards creating a balance around that, okay? So I think that that's really an empowering thing for you as a yoga teacher, to remember that when your students come to you, because they're going to always want to, it's a human nature to want to know the reasons why things, right? And your students are going to come to you with questions about the why of things. And your job is never, ever to diagnose unless you are otherwise trained professional and or have a yoga therapy training. But that's okay. That doesn't mean you can't help them because you can't diagnose, because yoga is not predicated on the diagnosis for the solution. I don't want to say cure. The solution comes through the practice. And you are going to be learning that as a yoga teacher. And that's the beautiful thing. It doesn't mean you say, oh, okay, well, you've got an imbalance in your root chakra, so this is going to fix you. We don't want to talk in terms of that. We want to say in terms of, oh, if you've got a root chakra imbalance, here's something you can experiment and go try for yourself. The same way Kristen and I are engaging with all of you to go find out for yourself. That's the beauty. Yoga is all self-authoritative, but you can't half-ass it and say, oh, it doesn't work. All right? So that's really important. You're going to get homework on this tonight, that you're going to practice some things to engage awareness, intention, and relationship with your root chakra over the next week. And if you half-ass it, you're not going to get much data out of it, okay? So I really want to encourage you to kind of dive deep with some of the homework with the chakra stuff and really like take some time with it when you can. And I understand there's going to be weeks that are going to be busy or whatever, but you know, the most you learn from this isn't going to be from hearing us lecture, learning information, gathering knowledge. That doesn't mean anything. Experiential, authoritative wisdom is what you will be able to teach your students from. I'm just giving you a place to go practice. That is the purpose of these nights, is to give you enough knowledge and information to go practice in a informed way. And then it's through the practice of it that you gain the wisdom that transforms you slowly, week by week, into a yoga teacher. Are you following me? Okay, cool. So this right to exist, this one I think is really striking. Who has ever felt like you don't have the right to exist somewhere or sometime before in your life? Yeah, okay. So it's a pretty common thing. I think most of us have probably felt that one time or another. And to understand that it's coming from the same place where we experience flight or fight is, I think, really helpful to us, because that's the reptilian brain. So what that means is it's not a choice. All these things that happen with the root chakra, they're not a conscious choice. You don't get to analyze it in your prefrontal cortex and say, I'm feeling threatened now because something is coming at me out of the dark through the bushes. Should I fight or should I flight? No way. You just act, don't you? You run or you fight. Sometimes you freeze. That's the second chakra thing. We'll talk about that next week. You don't have time, and that you're designed that way. You're designed through the autonomic nervous system for survival purpose to not take the time that the prefrontal cortex would want to sit down and weigh all the factors and be like, well, how safe am I? And let's just measure the threat level here. No. We would not be here if our ancestors took the time to weigh every consequence of circumstance that happened along the way. That instinct is supremely important. But it is also, even though it's unconscious, and we don't even get into the conscious mind until like the third chakra, really. So we're not even moving up to, so the reptilian brain can, I guess, from externals, let's look at it this way. You're a human being having an individual experience in a world that is full of external stimulus, right? And the only thing you can control in life, you can't control what happens around you. The only thing you can control is your response to those things. Yeah? And it's so interesting that depending on the external stimulus, you're going to respond from different parts of your brain. So if it's a threat, you respond from the reptilian brain. you respond from instinct, fight or flight. Emotions, you respond from the limbic brain. This is the second and third chakra. It isn't until we're pretty darn safe, like right now, I have all of you hopefully engaged somewhere in the prefrontal cortex. You're analyzing, you're really thinking about things. And look what it takes to get to that point. You have to be safe. You have to know that emotionally you're taken care of and your needs are met, I mean, it actually really does pair well with Maslow's hierarchy, if you're familiar with that, of the primary needs. But to think that it all ends with the prefrontal cortex is a mistake, at least from the yoga philosophy standpoint. We have higher aspects of our mind beyond our ability to reason, rationalize, deduce, and analyze, synthesize, whatever, right? We can do so much more than an animal brain can do, and yet the yogic model, the Hatha Yoga model of the chakras tells us there's even more, and you haven't even yet begun to tap into it. But you've got to start somewhere. And so where we're starting with is consciousness in the root chakra, in the most primal aspect of who we are. So when you came into this world and the shock of birth woke you up into the awareness of an external reality, that first moment of Satchidananda, right? That awareness of something other than yourself. What do? They spank your butt to get you going, don't they? They get you right on the root chakra. It's no accident, I would say. What questions do you have? Anything yet? Is you're just taking it in? Who feels, hang on, Caleb, thank you. Who feels, raise your hand if you feel like you're relatively balanced here. Your root chakra is balanced. Like you have strong sense of roots, feel like a right to exist. You don't interface with fear on a irrational level much in your life. You are not an insecure person, and that not just emotionally insecure, but insecure about, oh, where's my next paycheck going to come from? These kinds of things. Okay, and then who feels like, oh, I need to work on my root chakra? It's definitely not in balance. Okay, cool. So about half and half, maybe a little bit more towards the not. And that's fine, because we're going to see that flip-flop as we go through the weeks. Caleb, what was your comment or question, please?
I actually found the answer. It was right in front of me. So we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I do want to just share with you well, let me ask you if you feel like you've got a pretty good understanding of this. Yeah, I mean, visualize, you've got this red lotus, right? So that's the imagery. It's got 2 petals going down, 2 going up. So there's 4 petals on this lotus. 2 represent the apana energy, the prana that comes from the legs. 2 going up, converting. I mean, this is such a massive chakra because it literally is the dividing line in your entire body. So it can't be overstated that there is a massive amount of prana flowing through this chakra. So if it flip-flops a lot from being in balance to out of balance, that's typical. So Flo asked a really good question. If the chakra is imbalanced, does it imply it can destabilize the above chakras? Well, yes and no. So the subtle body doesn't necessarily work the same way the body does because we are all slaves to gravity, right? So if the knees are hurt or the hips are hurt, it's hard to move around anything up above it. So it's not, the upper chakras are not dependent on the lower chakras in the same way. However, yes, the chakras, to go through the chakras night by night like we're doing is a rare and unique thing. And really, I would only do it for the function of learning about them because they are so intrinsically linked. Usually when we're having some kind of issue that we want to focus on that might be manifesting itself either in the emotions or the mind or the body. So remember, we're talking about the subtle body. This is the energy of the body. This is the thing that's next layer closest to what we might call the soul in yoga, right? You've got the soul, you've got the energy body, you've got the mind, emotions, or you can flip those, emotions, mind, and body. And the subtle body affects all three of those layers. And so it doesn't, yeah, it does, there is nuance to it and there's complexity to it. And so if we see something showing up that is indicative on a physical level of the root chakra, but on the emotional level of the third chakra and the mental level of the fifth chakra, well, it's very likely that we might have an issue going on with all three of those chakras. But there's also going to be some overlap between the chakras that we'll soon learn as well too, Flo. That's a really good question. But what I want you to, play with this week is, thinking about these questions of what does it mean to be at home? This is the quintessential aspect of this chakra. To be, the right to exist means that you are here in this body on planet Earth for a reason. And not just any reason, for a very specific and meaningful reason. In fact, in the yoga philosophy, to be given the privilege and honor to be embodied as a human being on planet Earth is one of the most rare, and I mean, it's like 1 in 100 million chances. It's such a rare and beautiful and unique thing. And we can't live our life generally knowing what a blessing it is, because it would just be so overwhelmingly blinding we would never get anything done. We have to pare reality down into bite-sized chunks so that we can get through our days with the ways we need to. And so the chakras are kind of filters for bigger reality. It kind of distorts the bigger reality so we can actually make sense of this blinding light of the truth, through our 5 senses. And then it gets processed through our mind and through the chakras. And the root chakra is all about like, oh shit, I'm here now. What does this mean? And that is a special place to be. So it's actually quite a wonderful thing to have prana in the root chakra. When you have prana balanced in the root chakra, it really is a humble and grateful place to understand that you are simultaneously a spiritual animal. Like a human being is part animal, part spiritual being. And it really comes alive and awake once that consciousness in the root chakra starts to wake up. And there's nothing more intimate than the root chakra, by the way. As we go up the chakra chain, we're going to see that. The third chakra, that's where we start interfacing with other people, at large, in public. Second chakra, well, that's where we start interfacing with a very select few people, sometimes only one person, our lover, right? But the root chakra is all about the most intimate connection with yourself. And it kind of inverts the relationship, because by the time you get to the crown chakra, it becomes a singular relationship again, but now it's the relationship with the divine. Whereas the root chakra is a relationship with it's just kind of flipped on its head. It's just looking at it the other way. So let's see, what else did I want to say about this before we get into, grounding. I do want to just point this out. Grounding is a word that's thrown around a lot in modern kind of contexts, and I just want to propose to you that grounding is significant and has a lot of substance to it, because what it means to really be grounded means to feel stabilized, yes, and secure, because you have roots in the earth, right? So whether it's moving to Pittsburgh and really feeling like now you're home, and you've bought a home, and you're getting your roots and you're getting grounded. That's one element of grounding. The other element of grounding is understanding that the earth is there for us to discharge energy that is too great for us to take on otherwise. And so we can use practices like asana specifically. Asana is a big root chakra practice. So those 4 practices, if we were going to characterize them with the chakras, well, the root chakra is all about asana. And one of the things that we do when we're doing asana is connecting with the earth in a very grounding way and discharging. And I just want to leave it at that, like discharging. I don't want to say negative energy. I don't want to say positive energy. I mean, yes, negative energy, sometimes positive energy, excessive positive energy. But it is so important that as human beings that we have a touchstone, a relationship of grounding to discharge energy, because we are ultimately electromagnetic beings. Our brain runs on electricity. And if we are not cleansing the fountain, so to speak, if we're not clearing it out by discharging and then letting it be recharged, we get stale, we get tamasic. And so that is the most important function of bringing the root chakra into balance, is getting physical with the earth, especially your body and the earth. That is a great way to get into the root chakra. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think that that is why yoga is so profound in the West, because it's one of the only spiritual practices that really acknowledges how important the body and physicality is. So we're going to chant Lam. So as Kristen mentioned, there are bija sounds. And Lam, we're going to chant this a specific way. You're going to hang out for a long time on the L. You're going to blip over the ah, and then hang out for an equal amount of time on the sound. So it's going to sound like this. Okay? There's a visualization with this too. When you are on the L, I want you to imagine energy in the root chakra. So at the perineum, where your butt is hitting the floor, I want you to feel energy there. When you go bring the energy up to the third eye, and then hold it there for the okay? So it resonates at the base chakra for the L, and then bring it up to the third eye, okay? This is the practice. Sit up tall. We're gonna do it 3 times. I want you to bring your palms up and your pinkies and thumbs to touch. Close the eyes. It's going to feel weird if you've not chanted a lot, and that's okay. Just get used to feeling weird sometimes. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out to prepare. Inhale to follow along. Yeah, so this is what I mean by you have to experience it. This is where all of this stuff really hits the rubber hits the road, is in the practice. So I want you to be thinking about your big takeaway from tonight, 1 or 2 takeaways from tonight, and Kristen's going to go over the homework for you real quick, okay?
Hey, homework. Also, chanting while Tommy is creeping at the door is always really funny because he giggles. So, homework. This is not something that you have to turn in on Google Classroom or anything like that. What we do with the homework is during check-in. So if you remember early on, I was talking about that. When we do check-in next week, you're going to tell us about your homework. Okay, so for this first one, it's going to be pretty open-ended. We'll get a little bit more pointed with it because we'll start to use it as how you theme your classes and things like that. But so for this first one, I want you to do as many of the homework options as you can, as many as you can fit into your day. But what I really want you to do is focus on one that you really are excited to do and one that you really don't want to do. Okay, so thinking about those, too much or too little prana into something. Okay, so the first one is your journal prompt. Record your initial feelings, experiences, ideas about your root chakra. Where is it at right now? If you feel balanced here, how does it show in your daily life? And if not, how would your life be different if Muladhara was balanced? What goal do you have regarding Muladhara? Number 2, practice grounding for 5 minutes. Record the date, the time, and the experience. So again, another prompt for journaling if you're looking for prompts. Number 3, extend the exhalation for 5 minutes with a mantra. However many beats your inhale is, let the exhale be at least 2 beats longer. So if you breathe in for a count of 4, let the exhale be at least for a count of 6, longer if you can. Recording again the date, the time, the mantra that you used, and the experience. Number 4, get outside and do something. It could be anything from gardening, walking the dog, or hike. Try to be in nature and find your connection with it. So it's not so much just like walking around, absent-mindedly with your headphones on and things like that. So really be aware of your surroundings and try to find a connection with nature. Incoming. Chant Lam for 4 minutes. Or vary the foods and beverages that you eat that might affect the area. So maybe more or less of something. And if you look up in exercise and activity under balancing Muladhara, things that can affect this are eating protein or root vegetables. Dandelion root tea is a great one to try out for a week if you want to. It's bitter, so you might want some honey or agave, depending on your taste. And then you've got the Muladhara self-test, and that's really just for you to gauge where you're at with it, just some questions to think about. Again, the self-test isn't really for us, it's for you, okay? So out of those 6, and I'm gonna throw another one in at you just for fun. You can do like a foot massage, roll your feet out on tennis balls, things like that, okay? So out of the 6, do as many as you can fit into your week, but most definitely be prepared to tell us about, in your check-in, one thing that you really were excited to do, and one thing that you were not so excited to do, okay? Is there a meaning?
I do want to say before we do the closing word, and Katie, yeah, there is. So the bija sounds all have meanings, but they don't have implicit, definitive translations. So if you're looking for like, what does Lam mean? You're not going to find it. And that's as far as I can go into that right now. But I hope that I wasn't too intense and scared you off all this stuff tonight. I get super pumped and excited about this. So I hope that my enthusiasm for it, the goal for me is to inspire you to learn to have a couple aha moments along the way, but also to want to continue to learn more, because this is, like I said, it's not comprehensive, and it just simply can't be. Because even if we had all the time to be comprehensive, learning about this and learning about yoga is about the experience. And so you have to have the patience to take the time to let it land and unfold in the way of due process and due course. So I hope you enjoyed tonight. Is anybody freaked out from me? Did I freak anybody out? I'm sorry if I did, because I get real pumped. I'm so pumped about the Muladhara chakra. I get fired up. I love this stuff. I hope I inspired you. I hope, Kristen's kind of my grounding rod, and I just kind of like shoot lightning out and get nuts. But feel free to ask questions. I want it to be more interactive, and it will be. Just know that these nights are going to be, that's the energy we're going to be at for them. So think about your takeaway from tonight, and we're going to end with the word. So you want to, y'all know how to do that, right? Yeah, okay, Kristen, call us out.
So I have to tell you real quick, you asked, did I freak anybody out tonight? And Tommy's here on my lap and he goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, so starting up at the top, Jenny.
Sorry, I wasn't here. I didn't catch this part of the recording.
Oh yeah, let's explain the word. So so at the end of every session, we're going to end with one word that just is the first word that's on your heart. It can encapsulate what the meaning of the night was for you, or it could be completely random. There's no right or wrong to this. So literally just gives everybody a chance to just be heard one more time and say the word for their whatever's on their heart for the night. So
Inspirational.
Tori.
Excited.
Belle.
Quest.
Diana.
Healing.
Ayla.
Grounded.
Max.
Stoked.
quickly mute.
Caleb.
Change.
Corey.
Intrigued.
Trinidad.
Exhale.
Katie.
Home.
Flo.
Curious.
Christian.
Aspect.
What'd you say? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Aspect. As in higher aspect.
Nice.
Cheryl.
Energized.
My word's going to be Tommy.
He's repeating everything that everybody says. Energized.
Energized. All right. Have a beautiful night, everybody. Rest well. Drink lots of fluids. We'll see you next Tuesday. But, of course, be ready for Saturday. You've got Posture Clinic with, I believe, Rich or Erica. Who is it?
Suzanne.
Suzanne. Okay. So you got Sun A and the rest of integration on Saturday. Tori, don't kill yourself trying to watch that video tonight. You got until Saturday to watch that, by the way, the Posture Clinic. So, but everybody, good luck getting your homework done, and reach out to your mentors. And if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate for a second to reach out to us. Okay. All right. Great job tonight, everybody. Really great job. Thanks for the engagement, the enthusiasm, being plugged in. I love it. I love it. Keep it coming next week. Keep building on this. All right. Bye.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mama done one, So cute. Ciao. Thanks.
Ciao.
Good dinner. Oh my
Okay.
God, he's so cute.
Bye, Tommy.
Goodbye.
Oh, bye, guys.
Oh my God. Bye. I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, yeah, Tuesday.
Yep.
Or no, sooner than that, I'm sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You say bye.
I got.
You can't. You can't. Say bye. Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Oh, he said have a good day.
Oh, thanks, bud. You too.
Good night, huh? You gotta go to sleep.
Yeah, me too. Okay. See you guys.
Alrighty. Bye.